Welcome back to the 31st episode of Sports Avenue. I'm your host, Jimmy Simonis, and today we're going to be diving into some boxing. We're going to be diving into some NFL. Andrew Luck retiring. Lamar Miller tore his ACL. What does that mean for the Texans? There's a big fight coming for boxing this upcoming Saturday, so stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. Also, make sure you follow all social media in the description below. I'm really looking forward to meeting and connecting with you people, so let's make it happen and let's get right into it. So first topic of discussion I want to talk about is the fight on Saturday, August 31st. Vasyl Lomachenko going against Luke Campbell. Honestly, Vasyl Lomachenko is one of my favorite fighters. He's been for the last few years since I've gotten into boxing. The first time I actually saw him was a YouTube video. It was called The Matrix by him. And man, he is just something else when it comes into the ring. So this fight against Luke Campbell, let's not throw away Luke Campbell here. He's a solid fighter. What I've looked at, he's not a bad fighter. He is currently 20-22 with 2 losses. He's won 16 by knockout and 4 by decision. His 2 losses have been by decision, so he has not been knocked out in a loss. His last fight, Luke Campbell fought Adrian Young, which was with TKO in the 5th round, and he's shown what I saw of him. He loves to use his jab. He's very powerful with his punches. He doesn't like to get in your grill a lot. He likes to get his distance. He has a reach of 71. Vasyl Lomachenko is only 65.5. So right now, walking into the fight right now, I'm going to give Luke the advantage in the sense that if he uses his jab, I don't see this fight going too far because I think Vasyl struggles when he's not able to get inside, get aggressive. Luke, he has to be able to learn how to use his defense. What I saw of him, he struggled against Jorge Linares, which was 2 years ago in 2017. He lost to Jorge Linares by no decision. He did get knocked down in the 2nd round, but the problem was he let Jorge Linares get into him. He was very aggressive, and he just got knocked out. He got knocked down. Too many times he just seemed way too passive, and when he was aggressive, it wasn't enough to counterattack or be effective going against Linares. And Linares, by the way, was a TKO by Vasyl Lomachenko, which, I mean, again, Lomachenko, I watched that fight, was in control most of the time. Granted, yes, he did get knocked down, but I saw that as more. He was just getting way too overconfident, and he even said that after the interview. He got too confident, wasn't able to, keep his composure, and he fell for it. But again, Vasyl, I think if everyone that watches him, he's very slithery like a snake. He will bite you. He will crawl. He will make you feel so uncomfortable in the ring. He knows he has one of the best IQ in the game right now. So if he's able to get Luke trapped off into one of the corners of the ring, I don't see this fight going long because Campbell's defense was not very good, especially when guys that are super fast and move around the ring real quick. Linares was being one of them. Again, he doesn't take punches very well. He doesn't roll with the punches very well. He does well. I mean, he's a professional boxer. I'm not saying he's bad, but when we're talking about Vasyl Lomachenko, he's just going against one of the best right now in the business, and Lomachenko is one of the most talented. So what I'm looking for Luke, he has to keep his distance. Like I've said before, he's got an inch of 71. He's got about a 5.5-inch reach over Vasyl. Throw your jab. He has a good left hook. He is a southpaw, by the way. So again, his left hook is his power punch. So if he gets Vasyl off his feet, gets him uncomfortable, which is going to be tough to do. Vasyl is very aggressive. He does not stop. So again, using that jab, getting an unexpected power punch might be the difference in there. If Vasyl doesn't see that left hook coming, then he might be down. But throwing combos, making sure you have good discipline with your punches, because if you're very sloppy, Vasyl's going to counter it basically, and he'll knock him out. For Vasyl, again, staying aggressive. Do not let Luke dictate the fight. You have to stay aggressive. If you are the aggressor, Luke's not a good enough defender to take the punches. He doesn't roll well. So again, he's and also one thing I did notice about Luke, he's very stagnant. He doesn't like to move his head. He just likes to kind of throw his punches. He takes a couple steps. I'm not trying to say he's bad, but again, his his style does not match well against Vasil's at all. He's more of like he's a power puncher. So again, he's going to keep his distance. He's going to make sure he has the right timing, but timing's not going to work when you have Vasil. He's just going to stalk him until he gets his opportunity. He's got to stay aggressive. He's got to keep within so that Luke doesn't utilize his jab right, because if Luke doesn't have his jab, his other punches aren't going to be able to set up for him, because his combos were always set up with his jab, what I noticed a lot with him. Vasil, he can throw any punch almost at any time and get you at any place. So my keys to the fight, like I said, distance for Luke. Vasil has to be aggressive. Whoever does that first from the get-go, I don't see this fight going through three rounds. I think both are going to be very aggressive, and it's going to be a tough fight from the start. You know, Luke's been talking a lot of trash to Vasil, thinking that he's going to be the next big thing, but I don't think he knows what Vasil's actually done. In the skill level that Vasil's at is second to none. Loma he's just a great fighter. He's one of the best in the world right now, and I don't see this fight going through 3 rounds. I expect a knockout from one of the two. I think if Luke's going to get one, it's going to be an off a left hook, and if Vasil's going to get one, it's going to be off some uppercuts to the body, or no, hooks to the body and then an uppercut to the face, and you're going to call it a night. So Vasil's the favorite, but again, I think Luke has a slight chance of winning, but that is a tough. I mean, it's a tough one to make. Lomachenko's the WBA, the WBO, the ring, and they're fighting for the WBC lightweight title. So Vasil's got everything to lose. Luke's got pretty much everything to win. So it comes down to mentality. Who's going to be more aggressive, and that's going to dictate who wins the fight come Saturday night. Now we're going to dive into the NFL with a lot of news going on. So let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. With Andrew Luck retiring this past week, it's a tough loss for the NFL as a whole. He was a great guy, a great personality for the league. Not very charismatic, but a great player. He was very fun to watch. He had a weird throwing motion to say, though. I don't want to say robotic, but it was just weird to me. It was very slingshot-ish. But he was one of the best in the game. Ever since he came out of college, really, I think the main problem was that when he was playing in the NFL, the GM at the time, Ryan Grigson, they didn't protect him. His offensive line was some of the worst besides last year, since he's been in Indianapolis. And what that just caused was these injuries to his back, his shoulder, his legs, He was getting destroyed out there. And I think it sent out a notice, especially to the league, as in these quarterbacks, they can only take so much hits. I know the league has gone to more of a safety with protecting the quarterbacks, but at the same time, Andrew Luck was getting dismantled out there. Another example, Cam Newton. He just got his shoulder repaired because he does take a lot of hits, but he's not he is a scrambler quarterback. Luck was never a scrambler. He only ran when he had to. Or he set, I think, a new tone that these quarterbacks, these players are not going to take all these injuries and just play for the money. It's about making sure that they're healthy when they're able to play. And Andrew Luck fought through some gruesome injuries. I mean, he was playing with a broken body half the time. Matthew Stafford was another person that came to my mind right now. He's playing with a broken back, a broken collarbone, a broken rib. Tony Romo too, broken collarbone on both sides of his body. His body's just broken to shambles, and he's still out there playing. And these guys are just not getting protected, and it's showing that. If your GM, if your team is not protecting your franchise quarterback, which you would already think should be set in stone when you draft this guy. He's supposed to be your franchise quarterback. He's supposed to be the guy that leads your team to a championship. If you don't protect him, you're not going to win. And now the Colts are completely restarting, or not restarting. They're having to reform 2 weeks before the season even starts to have a guy that can start at the helm and bring this team to the playoffs, which they were already expected to be a Super Bowl contender. That was already supposed to be expected of them. They were supposed to be competing with the Patriots. They were supposed to be competing with these elite teams in the AFC. I mean, the Browns, the Steelers, who else? I mean, their division Their division is pretty tough this year. A lot of teams with questionable quarterback play besides the Texans. The Jacksonville Jaguars with Nick Foles. The Titans with Marcus Mariota. And the Texans team, they're not whole either. They can struggle this year. As much as the Texans can struggle, Indianapolis can struggle as much just because they don't have a quarterback. The defense for the Colts is good enough to kind of hold a bridge. The offense, I think, is good enough to complement Jacoby Brissett as he steps in for the time being. Again, Brissett is not... he's not a rookie. He's been in the league for 3 to 4 years. He started in 2017 when Luck was out with his shoulder. Yeah, I think he's going to have a good understanding of the system. He was with the Colts last year. He played in New England when he got drafted. So he has had good coaching along the way. He's familiar with the system, being the backup last year. I think going into this season, I think the Colts are actually going to be really good. And I actually posted this on Sports Nuts that I think they're going to be a playoff team either way. I think Brissett is good enough to at least get this team 8-8, 9-7, a possible 10-6 if all things go right. There's really no glaring holes on this team. You look at this team, top to bottom. There's not many superstars. There's really no superstars. Darius Leonard's an all-pro linebacker, but again, he's not a household name like Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner, but he's a great talent, especially being a second-year player. Pierre Desir is their head corner. The secondary group is not the greatest, but again, Desir, a former Brown, just saying. Malik Hooker, a great ball hawk safety. I think those two leading it is a solid group. Not great. I think they're about mediocre at best. The front seven, I think, is going to be really good. It's what's going to separate them from good to being great, especially if the secondary is considered a glaring weakness. They remind me a lot more of a Dallas team. A lot of good pieces around them, a good O-line, a great front seven, but the secondary is suspect. Got a good safety like Byron Jones and Malik Hooker, but they don't have lockdown corners. The team I still think is going to be 10-6, 9-7, make the playoffs. I think they win the division. I don't see the Texans winning the division. I'm not really big on Houston because, they just lost Lamar Miller, which I'm going to talk about. I mean, unless Duke Johnson really fills in and pretty much does what Lamar Miller did with a bad O-line. I mean, if you thought Cleveland was bad, Houston's got one of the worst O-lines in the NFL. As Deshaun Watson, he got hit like 60-plus times last year. These last few years have been a struggle, and the fact that he's still playing, he's still battling out there, I think should make the Texans worry because Andrew Luck just went through a lot of similar problems than what Deshaun Watson did, continually getting hit. As a young quarterback, Deshaun Watson's only walking into his 3rd or 4th year into the league. He's got to be protected at all costs, or he's going to be, in this situation where he can't play because he's hurt. The Texans drafted Titus Howard with like the 24th pick or whatever they drafted in the first round when he wasn't even projected to be going until like the 2nd or 3rd round. I don't understand what they were looking for, but they better expect Titus Howard to fill in some big shoes because that line is really bad. Really bad. Your defense is good on the front seven, but your secondary is horror. Your secondary was the worst according to all the playoff teams, or their stats by all playoff teams last year. They were the worst. How can they and they really didn't do anything to shore it up. They lost Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs. Who did you pick up? You didn't do much. I mean, who's going to step in? Especially because, if J.J. Watt doesn't stay healthy, the team is continuing to age. J.J. Watt's getting a year older. Whitney Mercilus is getting a year older. Your team is getting older and older, and you're not replacing enough pieces to keep the cog going. DeAndre Hopkins is a great receiver and all, but at the same time, he's the only guy out there. Will Fuller is still coming back from a leg injury. Who else are you going to replace? You lost Jalen Strong. You have Kevin Kuti, who's not bad, but again, you don't have anything to make this team better than what they were last year. I actually think Jacksonville's a better team than them. But the problem with Jacksonville is that they have too many egos in the locker room. And I really think the Titans are good, but because they have a crappy quarterback, they're not going to win. Last year showed there is 8-8 team with Marcus Mariota at the helm. He didn't play last year against the Colts, but because he was hurt. But I don't see the Titans improving. I think the Colts are much better than any of these teams, top to bottom. Coaching staff, all the way down. I like Mike Vrabel. I'm not a big fan of Doug Marrone. I don't really care for Bill O'Brien. The more seasons he coaches the Texans, I keep getting less impressed by him. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't change anything. The team is stayed stagnant. They win, they get wins, but when they get to the wild card, they poop the bed. No one wants that. Especially in Houston, when you're competing with Dallas, you're competing with all these teams, and you're not doing anything. This team had potential. This team still has potential, but they're not adding anything because you're about to get rid of Jadeveon Clowney, and you better hope you get a left tackle for it. You really better hope you get a good offensive line piece because right now your focus has to be protect Deshaun Watson at all costs. Because if you don't protect him, you're not going to have him in a few years. You actually, and by the way, just to top it all off, the running back you got rid of, Deontay Freeman, is now on the Colts. Not to mention, now you only have one running back on the roster who's never really even started on the team. He's played in every game in his career, but he's never started as a true number one back, and now you're expecting him to fill into a position where he's supposed to be the number one back from the get-go on a terrible O-line. Even though the Browns were bad these last few years when Duke Johnson was on the team, the offensive line wasn't awful. Between Joel Bitonio, J.C. Treader, Kevin Zeitler, the offensive line wasn't bad. Last year is when they started. That's when they clicked in the second half of the year. But the offensive line was never terrible. The offensive line was at least average. The offensive line for Houston is awful. So you better figure out, Houston, if you're going to go in and get rid of Jadeveon Clowney for a left tackle or a future first-round pick, and that's not even going to matter because if Kansas City is a 9-7, 10-6 team, you're only getting a back half left tackle. You're only going to get a decent left tackle at best. Unless you hope Cody Ford or a guy like that slides again, which is not going to happen. Drafting Titus Howard was a stupid move. And now you're going to suffer consequences for it because you're still walking into the season with the same problems you had last year. And now you lost Lamar Miller to a torn ACL in the preseason. Matter of fact, granted, Duke Johnson is not bad. I'm a Browns fan. I like Duke Johnson, but he's not a true number one back. He fumbles the ball too much, and he's running behind a terrible O-line. You can't run the ball. So, and you have DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to get all his catches. He's going to get all his stats. He's probably going to be the best receiver this year. But again, you're not improving. This team can regress. Titans can regress. The entire AFC South picture can regress. And the Colts, I still think, are going to go 9-7 and 10-6. And that's my problem. I mean, I know I talked about Lamar Miller and trying to bring that up, but again, I don't see the Colts taking a step back. I think Frank Reich in his first year as a head coach did much more than Bill O'Brien has done in his how many years he's been in with Houston. Mike Vrabel has showed he can coach a good team. His defense was great last year, but Marcus Mariota is garbage. No offense, but I'm not a fan of Marcus Mariota. He's not good with the system. He hasn't shown he can. He hasn't even shown he's improved. Only thing he's done was beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a playoff game, and that was it. He hasn't stayed healthy. He hasn't shown he's improved. My problem is that Mariota has not improved since he's gotten to the league. The offense hasn't gotten better. Yes, I know the offensive pieces haven't been there always. But again, I don't see this team improving with Marcus Mariota at the helm. I think this is his last year to prove if he's going to be anything of worth. Or I think the Titans are going to have to draft a quarterback. Because Vrabel's a good head coach. I think the pieces, I think it's the same thing with the Bills. The pieces are there. But now the Bills actually got a quarterback in Josh Allen. The Titans are sitting stagnant with Marcus Mariota, and they're giving him another year, which I don't know why. I really don't. So to wrap up this discussion with the Colts, which delved into the AFC South, I think the Colts are going to do fine, 9-7, 10-6. I think Jacksonville is going to go 8-8, 9-7. I think Foles is good enough. I mean, I think he's better than Mariota. I think the Jacksonville team, top to bottom, with a healthy Leonard Fournette, is much better than Houston. Houston, let me say. So I think Jacksonville can snag a wild card spot, to be honest. I really do. I mean, if Doug Marrone can really pull this team together, can get rid of these egos, the defense is going to be top 5. And they got Josh Allen, who was supposed to be the best pass rusher. This team, the defense is stacked. Stacked. And now with your offense, D.D. Westbrook is bound to break out. Bound to break out. Leonard Fournette coming back after a terrible year last year. It was a down year. It wasn't good. You drafted tight end Josh Oliver, who's a passing tight end, which I think could be a come into play here in the first few games or so if they learn to pass more. But if the passing game's there, all Foles I think has to be is a glorified game manager. If he throws the deep ball, what did Philadelphia do in their Super Bowl run? They played great defense. You ran the ball well, and you always had the deep play. You always had the big play. That's what Nick Foles did. And if you avoid turnovers, which Foles did show besides his 1 year when he threw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, is what his problem is. He's gotten too many turnovers. But this team, the Jacksonville team, is set to win. It really is. But it really comes down to management and coaching. You really can't. I mean, the team is young. It's got a lot of talent. A lot of talent. And everywhere on the defense, there's a top 10 player in that position somewhere. Offensively, your team is not bad. It's average, but it showed that playoff teams, if they have great defenses and average offenses, you can win. It's happened years past. The Eagles, granted, they've won shootouts in that Super Bowl run, especially against the Patriots, which was 44-35 or 42-35. But again, they didn't do that every game. Teams think about the Vikings, the exact same year. They had Case Keenum as their quarterback. Where is he at now? He's in Washington. And he's barely holding on to a starting spot. And guess what? The Vikings, with Case Keenum, did better than Kirk Cousins has done in that last year. And Kirk Cousins statistically had a great year last year. But the team is not advancing. It's not getting better. These teams that are just continually keeping the same guys and not improving are continuing to regress instead of impress and progress. You're not doing anything to improve yourselves. So how are you going to get better? Especially when the line, the trenches are the most important positions on the field at one time. How you control the game is set with your linemen. And why does Houston lose in the playoffs every year? Their line sucks. The defensive line can only do so much. The offensive line, they got to control the tempo, and they can't. They have to score quick and always, because if the defense can only hold on so much, especially when your secondary is garbage. I know this has come more of a Texans rant, but I think this is the message has to be for the Texans. You got to protect Deshaun Watson, because you know what? In a few years, he might be doing like Andrew Luck and saying when he's 28, 29 in the middle of his prime, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of taking all these hits. I'm tired of getting hurt. Yes, I love the money, but man, I'm tired of getting hurt. Especially when we're not improving. The Colts turned around and went from 4-12 in 2017 to 10-6 and then the playoffs. Texans are not 10-6, 9-7, 8-8, but they don't do anything in the playoffs. They haven't improved. They haven't shown they can win. And I think that comes down to bad coaching and poor management for not drafting good players or drafting good quality players, let me just say, in the correct spots. The Texans are going to be facing an Andrew Luck dilemma here if they don't protect Deshaun Watson and having no run game. No run game and a bad line. You're just lucky DeAndre Hopkins decided to become the superstar he is. Because if not, this team would be awful, and Deshaun Watson would be a waste of talent. And you guys are wasting his prime years on his rookie contract to not really do anything. You're trying to sign Jadeveon Clowney. I think, honestly, you should flip Jadeveon Clowney for either a couple picks or a player, an offensive lineman, and that's it. Be done with Jadeveon Clowney and draft or sign someone. Because he's a great player and all, but I think it's more due to compliment of J.J. Watt rather than him being a good player himself. So going forward, for the NFL, I think, again, your offensive linemen are going to become that much more of a priority because of Andrew Luck. And the statement, he made a huge statement. And again, now the Colts have to deal with consequences that they were not expecting to bear, 10 days prior to when he said he was going to retire. So that's my take on this whole AFC South dilemma, especially with the Colts, and what the Texans need to do to improve. Because if they don't, it's going to be a downhill spiral for them, and they're going to be starting just right when they became an expansion team or the breakoff of the Houston Oilers. To finish up the episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone who listened on Sports App, listening to me spiel. I appreciate everyone listening, giving me feedback. Everything you guys tell me, how to improve, what to do, it makes me that much better, and I truly appreciate what you guys do for me. I couldn't be doing this without the people that support me, my family, my friends, people that listen to me and constantly give me feedback. You guys mean a lot to me. I just want you guys to know I really appreciate what you guys do for me. I'm really looking to take this podcast with Steven and, in company and making this something really big. So again, I just want to say thank you for listening. This has been the Sports Avenue Podcast with Jimmy Simonis, and have a great week.